Just the other day in Austin, Texas, a far-left activist, BLM supporter, armed with an AK-47 style rifle, approached a vehicle that was being quickly surrounded by other far leftists. According to some witnesses, he pointed his weapon at the vehicle. The driver pulled out his gun, fired several times. This man, Garrett, was shot 3 times and died. Someone else returned fire. The man sped away. The police arrested both. This far leftist, armed with a rifle, is being heralded as a hero. One high-profile activist on the left said he was unarmed. He was the caretaker for a disabled woman of color, and he was unarmed. That's not true. The dude had a rifle, and the witness says he was pointing it at an innocent guy in a vehicle, in his car. Yet this guy now has a GoFundMe with over $100,000. The only reason he wasn't charged, perhaps, because he didn't make it. And it's sad to hear that he lost his life. But I bring you now to the cold, hard splash of reality. Welcome to your new world. Get on your knees and beg. The McCloskey's, the married couple who pulled out their guns to protect their home legally under Castle Doctrine, have been charged. And the Attorney General of Missouri, in a long thread, argued they had every right to warn this mob of individuals entering private property to stay off their property. Yet they're being charged. And now what do we see? Kim Gardner seeks to stop Missouri Attorney General from meddling in McCloskey gun case. Well, hold on there, partner. How can we have this story? Certainly the McCloskeys were within their right to brandish their weapons in such a way. Why is this Garrett individual who lost his life allowed to run up to a car, point a rifle at this man, and that's okay? Okay enough that GoFundMe would allow $107,000 to be raised for his estate. Why is that okay? Why is the far left celebrating this man? Why are they saying his life was stolen? Why are they saying he was murdered? But the McCloskeys, well, the McCloskeys are evil, and they must be punished. You see how the game is played. They don't want to abolish the police. They want control of the police. We've seen all the videos where they say, arrest them, arrest them. Do you see the video where the woman in D.C., I believe it was in D.C., is driving and she encounters a protest? They block the road. She tries to drive through a gas station, so they jump onto her car to stop her and then demand the police arrest her. When they get injured, who do they call? The police. They do not really want to abolish the police. Abolishing the police is the first step towards getting their own morality police system. They call it reimagining the police, community policing. What that really means is intersectionalist far leftists enforcing things that are not laws. And there's no perfect example. I see all these leftists on Facebook, and they're saying these crazy people should not be allowed to brandish weapons. Post after post after post saying these are crazy people with guns. Lock them up. Take away their weapons. Justice must be served. What about this guy, Garrett, who ran up with a gun to a vehicle? What about this guy? Let me show you the photo. Let's not play any games here. There he is. You can see him right here, red circle. He's got a rifle. He's holding it up. And many people said that makes it look like he is preparing to fire. This is still from a video where they ran up to the car. He's holding the grip and he's got it raised up. It's not resting down. He's raising it up. Witnesses said he pointed it at the vehicle and then was shot several times. How is he a hero and a martyr who was murdered instead of a violent lunatic who was attacking innocent people? I don't know. Let me make sure it's very clear for all of you. The McCloskeys are apolitical. I mean, I think in 2016, they donated to Trump. I don't know if they have now, or to Republicans. They are not belligerents in this cultural war. They are not some Proud Boys or far-right activists. They were regular people eating dinner on their patio when a group of a large mob of people entered their private property and, according to the McCloskeys, threatened them. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Doesn't matter. They were just regular people confronted by a mob. So they took out their weapons and they said, get away, back off our property. This guy, Garrett, was himself a belligerent. What I mean by that is he's an active participant in the cultural conflict. The man in the vehicle was not. He's just some dude, uninitiated, unaware, driving down the street in Austin, Texas. That man is evil. They called him a Nazi. You see how the game works. If these people are allowed to succeed, they will wield the power of the state against you. and they will allow their extremists with rifles to point weapons at your face. And as this man drove away, someone shot at his car. How is this possible? It's possible because these extremists don't actually tell you what they're trying to fight, what they're trying to fight for. What they're really trying to do is gain power, and they're manipulating our emotions and our good faith to get it. According to St. Louis Today, Circuit Attorney Kimberly M. Gardner on Friday sought to stop Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt's controversial attempt to intervene in a high-profile gun case against a wealthy St. Louis couple. Gardner, a Democrat, filed a motion Friday to strike the Republican Attorney General's controversial decision to ask that gun charges against Mark and Patricia McCloskey be dismissed over the state's long-held interest in the right to bear arms. To be clear, this prosecution has nothing to do with the abridgment of any constitutional right, she wrote. If any part of our Constitution is implicated, it's the First Amendment, which guarantees the rights of rights of speech and assembly that cannot be said to be freely exercised when those who disagree with us resort to brandishing lethal weapons rather than engaging in civic discourse. Now, this, of course, is absolute bad faith and the abuse of power. You can't walk onto someone else's property and say, I have free speech to scream in your face. It doesn't work that way. You can stand just off their property, but people have a right to property, especially in Missouri. They can actually use, and this is a bit crazy, I got to admit, they can actually use lethal force to prevent you from entering their property. That to me was nuts. Yeah, the law is pretty severe. Gardner's filing was in response to Schmidt's brief Monday, hours after Gardner charged the McCloskey's with felony unlawful use of a weapon for displaying guns in their yard as protesters moved through the central West End to St. Louis Mayor Lida Cruzen's house. This is a frivolous motion, and we are sorry she is spending her time on motions such as this instead of prosecuting the violent criminals terrorizing the streets of St. Louis. Schmidt's initial brief said the extraordinary criminal case against the McCloskey's should be dismissed under the state's Castle Doctrine, which allows Missourians the right to defend themselves and their property. Schmidt, whose brief drew reactions across the political spectrum, defended the move this week, saying he thought it, quote, appropriate that I weigh in and to make the state's position known early. Gardner's filing Friday said Schmidt's brief read like a press release affixed with a legal-sounding caption, asking this court to serve as the Attorney General's publicist. She outlined several reasons Schmidt's attempt to intervene should be stopped. That Schmidt is not a party to the case, that police have established sufficient probable cause of a crime, that Schmidt's self-defense argument is for a jury to decide, and that Schmidt is trying to usurp Gardner's prosecutorial discretion. The McCloskey's first court hearing is set for August 31st before Judge Michael Colonna. Gardner is running against former Assistant Prosecutor Mary Pat Carl in the August 4th Democratic primary in St. Louis. They say they've updated the story. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not some big fancy city lawyer, but a humble space chicken, if you get the reference. I know nothing about law, same as the space chicken from Futurama. What I can tell you is that the far left will pretend they are outraged the guns were wielded against them. And they will raise $100,000 for someone who would wield guns against you. Make no mistake. The man in that vehicle was not politically active. He was driving his car down the street. He was immediately surrounded by these far leftists, one of whom had a gun. We've all heard the stories. In Provo, somebody was shot driving their car. A woman at the end of May was pulled out of her car and brutally beaten. We've seen the stories going back to 1992 in the LA riots. What could this man think but my life is in danger? And when he saw this man approaching him with a rifle, hand on the grip, as though he was preparing to fire, he said, "Not me, you." And he fired. And it was reasonably self-defense because he thought he was about to lose his life. And then someone in the crowd fired at him and he fled. The McCloskey's are you. The driver is you. People who are not involved in this conflict, people who are not marching in the streets, who are minding their own business in their homes or driving down the street perhaps to get a burger or just to come home from work. And when you are targeted by these extremists, they will wield the power of the state against you. They will raise money for the man who threatened your life. I'm not saying he did it intentionally, like he went up and said, I'm going to do something to you, but you felt threatened. What do you do when they come to your home? What happens next? They went to the home of the McCloskey's, and now the McCloskey's are facing serious criminal charges. Serious charges. What do you do when they come to your home? This is why I can't believe that Joe Biden is going to win. You think this stuff just goes away? You need someone to enforce law and order and defend your rights. Joe Biden won't be that person. And I got to admit, rather unfortunately for disaffected liberals like myself, our only option seems to be Donald Trump. And it is quite annoying, to say the least. The Democratic Party has become a shell of whatever it was supposed to be. Or it is a shell of it was. I don't want to say it's become a shell of its former self, because they're as bad as they've ever been. But they're certainly not the people here to defend our rights. They don't defend the workers and the small businesses. They don't defend the people. They defend the insurgent lunatics waving guns around. The McCloskey's were on their own property. That's the point. This guy was not. That's who they defend. They raise money for them. So I'll wrap it up there. The point of this segment is that the people being victimized are you. It's you. And if you stay silent and do nothing, they'll eventually come for you too, for your job, to your home, like the McCloskey's, or eventually they'll be surrounding your car. And like the guy in Provo, you'll get shot. Or in the guy in Texas, you'll stand up for yourself, and then you'll be facing serious threats of violence because you killed their hero. I'll see you all tomorrow in the next segment at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out.